the KMNN studios, this is the Kids Morning News Network. Good morning, everybody. It's August 21st, 2024. Welcome to the Kids Morning News Network podcast. I'm Alex in the KMNN studio in New York. It's National Senior Citizens Day. Doesn't matter how old you are, none of us would be here without our senior citizens. Have you ever had a chance to talk to a senior citizen? They know a lot of stuff. And a lot of the questions you have about life and the world, guess what? They've probably figured a lot of them out already. So if you get a chance today, take a minute to chat with a senior citizen. You'll probably both enjoy it. Breaking technology news from California, kind of. Many schools out there have begun banning smartphones, and the governor is considering making a smartphone in school ban a statewide thing.
Here we go!
There are some reasons for this. On average, a kid who has a smartphone in school spends 43 minutes on it during the school day and gets 60 notifications.
Oh, wow.
How are you going to pay attention in school when all of that is going on? In some California schools, kids have to check in their phones in the morning or put them in a cell phone signal-proof bag. In others, there's an honor system where kids are trusted to leave their phones off in their bags during the day. And there are a lot of good things that tend to happen when kids are not on their phones in schools. Studies show that student participation goes up, bullying goes down, there are fewer fights, and students are more likely to hang out with each other, get to know each other. Even some students say this is all helpful, but other kids say taking away their phones is unfair and gets in the way of their freedom of speech. What do you think? Are smartphones okay in school, or do they belong in detention? Send me a message through the link in the episode description or in an email at kidsmorningnews@gmail.com. I might read your comments on the next podcast, but don't send me a message while you're at school. On this day in 1961, a guy named Stephen was born in Oklahoma, though he grew up in California. This is a little bit of a story, but stay with me. As a kid in California, he couldn't get enough of the ocean, and he also liked to draw. He thought he wouldn't be able to find a job drawing, so he decided to go to college for marine biology, or the study of life in the ocean. Some of his teachers from high school thought he should draw fish instead of studying them, but Stephen's mind was made up. And side note, this will be important later, for a few summer jobs after high school, he worked as a fry cook in a seafood restaurant. So he went to college, and after finishing his degree in marine science, he became a teacher. He loved seeing how interested kids were in the ocean. But he'd already started to think that maybe he'd made a mistake and he should have studied art after all. Well, while he was teaching, he wrote a comic book about animals that live in tide pools, like Rocky the shrimp and Bob the sponge. And then he decided to chase his dream. He went to art school to study animation, or how to make cartoons, and that's what he did. After he finished his art school degree, he got a job working on a Nickelodeon cartoon series. So these were two things he loved, the ocean and animation, but he didn't put them together until one of his co-workers read his tidepool comic and said, "Hey, this would make a great cartoon series." Something clicked in Stephen. He saw both of these interests coming together finally. He remembered how much kids liked creatures in tide pools, and he decided to make a series about the weirdest one he could think of. Bob, the sea sponge. Now in the comic book, Bob looked like a real sea sponge. He was sort of round and sort of spiky, but to make Bob easier for kids to relate to in the cartoon, and also because it was funnier, Steven made him square, like a kitchen sponge. And then he put pants on Bob, the sponge. See where this is going? Yes, SpongeBob SquarePants first appeared on TV in 1999, and it's now one of the longest running animated series in history. All because Steven followed the things that interested him and put them together in a way no one ever had before. Time for today's riddle. Monday's riddle was, where is the only place that today comes before yesterday? A dictionary. Today's riddle is, how much dirt is in a hole that's 2 feet by 3 feet? I'll say that again so you can, write down the calculations. How much dirt is in a hole that's 2 feet by 3 feet? Give you the answer on Friday. But hey, make sure you follow or subscribe to the Kids Morning News Network podcast so you don't miss it. This summer, we've seen some huge wildfires burning out west in the Rocky Mountains. They're so big, the smoke makes the air hazy all the way over here in New York. But the U.S. isn't the only country dealing with a lot of wildfires. With the planet warming up, they are getting bigger and more dangerous just about everywhere. Well, researchers in the United Kingdom say that drones may help fight wildfires in the future. Detection drones could fly around by themselves without any people controlling them, looking for trouble. Then if they find trouble, also known as a wildfire, they could call in a whole swarm of firefighting drones to drop water on it. And none of this would need any people. AI could control the drones and help them decide what to do, and having the drones fight the fires would keep people safe, because fighting wildfires is really dangerous. The observation drones wouldn't need to take breaks, and the firefighting drone swarms could basically be ready to go all the time and arrive at the scene of a fire faster than a crew of people. And then if they couldn't put the fire out all the way, they could at least keep it under control until the human crews showed up. Now, no one has actually tried to put out a fire with these drones yet. There are still a few weeks of summer left. I might be able to get a water balloon hooked up to my drone. In today's weather, you're looking at some heat in Texas and Colorado today, but cooler than normal in the Northeast and the Northwest. Maybe some rain up there in those northern corners as well, and in Florida. Mostly clear everywhere else. I haven't ended in a poem for a while, but on this day in 1920, a woman named Daphne Milne gave birth to a son named Christopher Robin. Daphne's husband was a writer named Alan Alexander, or AA for short. Christopher Robin got a stuffed bear from his dad as a birthday present one year, followed by a whole bunch of other stuffed animals, and AA started writing stories about them. That was how Winnie the Pooh was born. So, in honor of Christopher Robin's birthday, here's an A.A. Milne poem called Furry Bear. If I were a bear, and a big bear too, I shouldn't much care if it froze or snew. I shouldn't much mind if it snowed or frizz. I'd be all fur-lined with a coat like his. For I'd have fur boots and a brown fur wrap, and brown fur knickers, and a big fur cap. I'd have a fur muffle ruff to cover my jaws, and brown fur mittens on my big brown paws. With a big brown furry down up to my head, I'd sleep all the winter in a big fur bed. That's the show. Thank you very much for listening. If you're new here, welcome. And even if you're not new, please make sure you follow or subscribe to the Kids Morning News Network on your podcast player, podcast app, smart device, or however you get this podcast, because I'll be back on Friday, and I hope you are too. From the KMNN Newsroom, this is Alex signing off.